everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. Well, one thing's for sure, Harry and Meghan definitely think they are much more clever than they are when it comes to their PR. We have witnessed so many missteps that it would make any expert or PR specialist's skin crawl. One such error has been Meghan's many phases, which she really leans into as if they are an acting role that she herself has written. And as we know, she's not a very good actor, so it really comes off as tacky and contrived. Today we are taking a decidedly less fabulous Eras tour through the many variations of Meghan's public image roles and what was happening with Harry during each of these eras, because they weren't exactly always on the same page. Way back when news broke of her dating Harry, we saw her try to portray this Hollywood actress tropes with pictures like these that are just funny. Attempts at glamour that looked like she had on far too much makeup, messy lipstick, and bad outfits that were totally trying way too hard, simply put. These were tragic. I thought, my God, she looks tacky when I first saw pictures of her, and I thought maybe these are really old pictures. Back when it was real time happening, I thought maybe these were old pictures from when she was like first trying to become an actress. But now I realize those pictures were taken when she started dating Harry and around the time that the news broke. So she was doing that on purpose. In her like mid to late 30s, she was dressing up like this and thought it was awesome. And it's just, this is bad. Then when she moved to the UK, the emergence of innocent Meg during the engagement era. At this time, Harry was, now in retrospect, it looks like he was really naive and foolish. It's almost sad. Everybody, I think, felt Meghan was overacting, but chalked it up to, hey, she's new, this is a big deal, there's a lot happening, let's cut her some slack and see what happens next. During this time, there were a lot of attempts at trying to look sort of coy, hiding her smile, dropping her head down, and she did attempt to dress more appropriately at this particular stage for the most part, excluding the excessive engagement dress that was really poor taste. A lot of people thought she was trying to emulate Diana, who was very young when she first was thrust into the public eye in her engagement with Charles, and she was considered a little bit more shy at that time. And so a lot of people thought Meghan was trying to emulate that. Looking back, I don't know what you think now, but despite certain ominous signs and a few mistakes, like her comments during the Fab Four moment where she prematurely tried to go rogue, really bad, this era on the surface seemed really benign. Most things were excused as she's new. Next, we saw Monarchy Modernizing Meg era, during which Harry looked somewhat startled much of the time. He was clearly trying to straddle a fine line between what he knew was appropriate and following protocol and what Meghan wanted. In this phase, Meghan was setting out to revolutionize the monarchy with her briefcases. She was trying to look overly important. She was trying to dress like a business lady. A lot of people thought she was channeling her Suits character. She began making a habit of pushing in front of Harry at this particular stage and pushing the boundaries of the institution overall. Oftentimes, people reference the institution as some restrictive, archaic situation that won't allow for people to do anything. At least if you believe Camp Sussex, that's what you'd think. But actually, it was a job. And all jobs have rules and dress codes and protocol and require work. So really what was going on is the Sussexes just didn't want to follow the job description, especially not Meghan. We could see a sort of conflict brewing in Harry during this phase where he didn't always know what to do, and she was definitely pressuring him to step outside the rules or status quo, so to speak. This was an era in which she made things difficult on Harry, and everyone else for that matter. Next up, we had Victim Meg era. This really started during the South Africa tour, which I will include the playlist for that here and in the description box. You could go back and watch those videos if you would like, that break down this particular start of the victim era. And it went right up until Oprah. During this time, Harry looked both confused and irritated. He even looked somewhat bewildered much of the time, like he wasn't quite sure what was happening. They left the royal family and experienced a cold hard slap to the face when nobody asked them back. The Oprah interview really embodies what this era was about for Meghan, and the few interviews and projects around this time were meant to back that up. Like, for example, the Ellen interview at the tail end of this phase. She spent a lot of time talking about her childhood and past in an attempt to come across as relatable. This was designed to sort of morph the victimhood into a likable, this is me sort of image where people could really get on her side. But it didn't work, because Oprah was so full of lies and inconsistencies, to say the least. In response to this not working out very well, we saw big, brave, boss Meg era. Harry really tried to emulate the supportive husband, but he quickly got impatient with his hairdresser era. This was the phase in which they decided to double down on painting the royal family as bad guys and them as the triumphant philanthropists. They were dressing like CEOs, they were trying to look like they were bigwigs out there in Hollywood, and it just really didn't work. Like they were some sort of Montecito empire that just collapsed because there was nothing to hold it up in the first place. Since Meghan had isolated Harry at this point, and by his own words, she had told him how bad his family was. He says he had no idea how bad his upbringing was or his life was until Meghan came along and told him, which is a huge red flag. If anybody who has known you less than a couple of years comes into your life and starts telling you that everything and everyone and everywhere that you have ever been is just not fair to you and not acceptable and not okay and not treating you nicely, absolutely everyone, that's a huge red flag. That is a problem. Run away. That's not good. That's not normal. But because of this, he actually believed her version of events every single time without fail. So he believed that everyone else was wrong. He believed that people were playing media games. And he went along with and even leaned into this spreading lies in the media against the royal family. He even made great leaps in that direction himself with Spare and his various interviews. This was a campaign against the royal family as retaliation for what he believed were lies about Meghan. Their line of thought was, well, if the palace, royal family, or other people have done it, then we can too. The problem is that the evidence shows otherwise, and the public doesn't have as short of memory as they would like to think. The news stories about Meghan Markle were true, and what the Sussexes have said about the royal family was not true. This era included a lot of power dressing, lots of GMPs, giant man trousers, and Meghan photographed in front of Harry most of the time, taking the lead. Big trousers, big shirts, big hair, looking really big. It was this concept of a strong leadership sort of situation that was the goal to convey. This ended up not working out well at all because they were quite simply too big for their big, huge britches anyway. And the projects that they attempted during this time fell really, really flat. Archetypes was a huge flop. They were called out as grifters. Invictus and Archewell's staff started dropping like flies, and a slew of poorly received interviews and appearances occurred, including a weird trip to New York where people started to wonder why on earth these two were doing any of the stuff they were doing. This was the launch of the faux royal in earnest, and it just hasn't picked up because it can't be a thing. And as I'm sure you've noticed, the wardrobe throughout each of these eras or phases with Meghan really aligns with whatever her image goals at the time are. With the almost unanimous rejection of all of their projects, accusations, and pursuits for attention, the next version of Meghan that we experienced was the vulnerable, I'm not the problem Meg era, where Harry then really diverted and entered his own very clearly well-defined, spiteful, vengeful era, with the release of Spare and a batch of interviews to go with it. The idea was that if Meghan comes across as less big visually, more vulnerable, then people will have a harder time associating her with the bossy, aggressive bully that she had started to look like. The hope was that people would be less objective about her actions and projects. Meghan stayed largely out of the spotlight while Harry went on his Spare media blitz, and the handful of appearances after that were so carefully choreographed, just to convey a softer image of Meghan especially. During this time, Harry began looking more and more outwardly unhappy and bitter. It's clear that he really thought that Spare would finally get people on his and Meghan's side. Lots of passages were clearly designed to clear Meghan's name specifically, and the rest were shady, unbelievable stories designed to make the royal family look bad. And it was jam-packed with very poor judgment in breaching other people's privacy. This phase, looking from the outside, if we were to put the couple together in a phase with each other, it would be the hypocrisy era. It became so clear to the public just how hypocritical this couple really are at this particular time. And by this time, popular culture really shifted to be more anti-Sussex. people started speaking out more. For example, South Park had occurred by then. People weren't buying it. This era sort of evolved into what we have now, which is the start of the Savior Meg era. While Harry is solidly in his fed up era, you can see he's clearly super over it in every single way. While Meghan has jumped on this opportunity to come across as the peaceful one, the bigger person metaphorically, ready to accept apologies and let all the drama go, I guess. Just in time for Harry to be doubling down on his court cases and coming across to the public as extremely angry, bitter, unhappy, and vengeful. This was all born from a desperation to try to claw back some degree of popularity. But much like what happens in many other arenas, if a studio tries to make the viewers like this actor in this role, people get very turned off. People don't like it when you try to force them to like someone. It's contrived. It doesn't work. It's not genuine. People like people when it's natural. People don't like being told who to like and having it forced upon them. And that's what Meghan and Harry have been doing. A huge error, trying to force people to like them, constantly putting out content and leaks and news stories and projects to try to make themselves liked instead of just being themselves and minding their own business. Inside Meghan's plot to salvage her image through rift healing messaging, we can see other projects lined up to back it up. For example, on the surface, making jam is wholesome. Supporting Harry at the ESPYs. Recent CBS interview where we're simultaneously reminded of her own vulnerabilities and mental health struggles, as well as trying to help out these families or protect children. All of this is curated to convey a kind savior image. She believes that if she can make all resolutions seem like her idea, even Harry potentially dropping his legal battles will be attributed to Meghan at this point because she wished he would be free of them, that she wished he would let them go. Reconciling with the family, returning to the UK, any of these things will be, in Meghan's eyes, credited to her. And then her image, she thinks, may just turn around, that she fixed the rifts, the lawsuits. And she would, if the public buys it, be seen as Savior Meghan. So once again, the public does not seem primed to accept this. In retrospect, it's really easy to see just how contrived each of these phases have been, how they impact Harry's chapters as well. And all the leaks, interviews, and projects, the wardrobe, all of it, support the various stages that she has attempted. Throughout all of these eras, the main thing that she's missing is just being herself. This is something pretty common with people higher in narcissism because they don't have a super strong sense of self. They don't only mirror or copy those around them and pick up on things that they like in other people and replicate them for themselves. They have a hard time just being themselves, just being okay with being them. They often try too hard to be liked, try too hard to get a message across, try too hard to be this way and seen in this light. It's like they think of what would be likable or how someone should be in a given situation, what would people approve of, and they try to contort themselves to fit into that shape. All with this distorted idea of what people actually are drawn to. But I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Now it's time for question of the day, and this has a disclaimer. This is opinion only, for entertainment purposes only, all hypotheticals. Danger Mouse asks, I can't understand why people say she was never pregnant. What has she to gain by doing that? The royal family would surely know. And why not set yourself up for being an advocate for surrogacy? Well, as I say, hypothetically here, all hypotheticals, what you might gain by keeping surrogacy secret would be keeping the children in the line of succession, obviously. But that is obviously only in this particular narrow place of being part of the royal family. But also some people who are higher in narcissism might find surrogacy to make them feel inadequate or create an inadequate image. So perhaps that's part of somebody's motivation, and that might outweigh the desire to or the benefits for being an advocate for surrogacy. That it's better to just keep it quiet and not feel or seem inadequate rather than be an advocate for something. Also, there's very different laws and attitudes about surrogacy depending on where you are, and it can be a rather controversial issue in some places for some people. So there is a case to be made for keeping it private just based on that alone. So also there's a chance that they did genuinely just want privacy around the subject of surrogacy had they used a surrogate. There's even a theory that the royal family knew that a surrogate was going to be used and they were going to keep it private. It's technically privileged medical information. All of that was arranged and lined up, but then Meghan went rogue and started wearing baby bumps out in public. And at that point, there was no graceful way out of the situation. It created a big predicament, and that was part of this huge rift that formed because it was an unexpected, weird thing to do that nobody else supported the use of baby bumps and moon bumps or prosthetics. But people involved were fine with this and willing to support keeping a surrogacy quiet. They just weren't willing to support pretending about it. However, that is a complete just theory, hypothetical type of theory situation going on. You have to be really careful with these subjects here, okay? But in the event that she did carry her children, all of the odd behaviors around it only served to stoke speculation, which does give her attention in a sort of sideways manner, but it's at the detriment to her family, her children, her husband. If it were me, I would come out and put a stop to the speculation for the children's sake, but also, as many people have pointed out, for a mom, it's like you want the credit for that sometimes, or you just don't want your kids to have sorts of rumors and speculation around those sorts of things and question it. You want them to know for sure that this is a truth, a reliable truth. A lot of people say if you baked the baby, you deserve credit for it. That's where I think it gets really sticky, because people wonder why you wouldn't just come out and straight up say, we did not use a surrogate, period. Easy. Done. But they haven't done that. And I think it makes people wonder, because why not? Hypothetically, had they used a surrogate, Meghan was out wearing moon bumps. Now they can't come out and say, yes, we did use a surrogate, because then it would kind of make it look weird that she was wearing moon bumps around all the time, and people would really side-eye that super hard. So that's where I think that's the space in which people feel it reasonable to continue to ask questions, because that adds up better than just being like, yeah, we're just never going to say that we didn't use a surrogate and put an end to it once and for all. But what do you think? I look forward to reading your discussion in the comments about this completely hypothetical issue. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, found it at least somewhat fun and interesting to watch. And what do you think about all of Meghan's eras? Did I forget any? Have a happy day, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye.